What is going on, automotive fanatics? It's Peter, your automotive fanatic, coming at you once again with another DIY. I am going to be concentrating on the Mini Cooper today, and what we are tasked to accomplish is installing a dash cam in the Mini Cooper. We're going to use BlackVue's DR900S. It's a 2-channel that has a front 4K camera as well as a rear 1080p setup. I have used this camera before and I absolutely love the quality of the videos and the functionality of it. In addition, I am also going to install their BlackVue's Power Magic Ultra battery, and the model on this one specifically is going to be a B12XE battery pack. And what this essentially does is it allows your dash cam to have true 24-hour recording. Let me actually step back a little bit, guys. I had mentioned 24 hours. With my experience in using this setup here, it doesn't quite record 24 hours of parking mode. You'll essentially get about 16 hours worth of coverage for a 2-channel setup. Now, if you're simply using a front dash cam and hook it up to this unit here, you should be able to have 24-hour coverage on the battery backup system. So that's what we're going to go ahead and install today. I have already taken the liberty of ripping apart the Mini Cooper, and I will tell you guys, it's not an overly complicated setup to do. You do have to remove a bunch of things on the Mini Cooper to access the locations to run all the wires. So if you are uncomfortable working around the airbag, working around the weather stripping, which you have to remove, I strongly suggest you guys have a professional do it, because there are a lot of things to remove. So without further ado, my friends, let's go ahead and get started on this dash cam project on the Mini Cooper Countryman. Here are the components of the interior that you do have to take apart. This specific one right here is going to be your foot panel. There's the fuse box. This one's going to be just on the outside of this panel here that goes to the door, and then this here is the A pillar. And the way that these are going to come off is you essentially pull them. This right here, I'll try to focus, there is a screw that essentially it sits like this here, so you'll need to remove that screw. The back of this here has all these little rivets here, so you have to remove it. And the way that you do is you're going to pull out pretty strongly. You may lose a couple of these, but you can actually put them right back in, so that's not a problem at all. This component right here, there's no screws or rivets except right here, and this essentially pulls right out. So that's going to be the front pieces that you have to remove. Now, coming back to the interior, the reason why I removed the bottom is that battery pack that I showed you guys earlier, it's actually going to sit right here. I'm going to run all the wiring underneath, and it's going to go this way here, right into here. And by removing the weather stripping up here, that allows me to run all of my wires from essentially the dash up here, underneath the headliner, down this A pillar, and down into here, all the way to the fuse box. So that's going to be the setup for the wiring there. Now, taking a look at the things that you'll have to remove to run wiring to the rear if you want to run the dash cam, there is the oh crap handle to do. This is going to be the front one, and the way that you actually have access to the bolts is this right here, you just want to pull back, and I've got it pulled back here so you guys can see, and then you can access the bolt. So again, this is going to be your front one. This is going to be your rear. And the way that it is held together is this piece right here just essentially clips right on. So you'll wedge like a thin screwdriver and it pops off. And then there is your little star bit that you want to remove. And you'll do that for both sides. Again, that is how you remove those handles each. Now this you want to be extremely careful with. You have the side airbags right here, and there's one right there. Now you do not want to cross over those airbags, because when they deploy, that wire is going to be in the way. So what you want to do is when you run your wire from here, you actually want to run it into the headliner. So the airbag sits right here. You want to run the wiring over this side, or essentially right over here through there, and then you're gonna cross it right over there into the very back. And once again, you see that I did remove all of the weather stripping so that it allows me to pull back the headliner. Now we come to the rear section where you're going to install the rear facing camera mount. This right here is going to be the third brake light, and let me grab that real quick for you guys. And here is the piece right there. Essentially, it goes something like this. So you'll just pull it off. Again, there's going to be some back clips right there. I disconnected the brake light so that it wouldn't be hanging, and then also removed all of the weather stripping, so that way when I pull this down, I have access to run a nice long wire through there. Now the main challenge that you guys are going to run into is how to get the wiring from your headliner through this whole elastic thing right here, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that. It's a very tight fit, but I think it's 100% doable, so that way the wire is completely hidden. So we were able to get the wiring through this loom here, and of all things that I used, because I didn't have a coat hanger, I actually used the Mini Cooper's antenna. And what I did was I started on this end, I just pushed it toward the very bottom of this flexible rubber hosing, and it came out through here. I attached my my rear dash cam cable, and I essentially pulled it right through, as you guys can see here. And then what we'll do here is we're going to run it into this hole here. It's going to come out here, and then from there you're essentially going to have the dash cam's rear right here. So that is how you run the wiring through here, right through here, down here, and then it goes like this. Now this portion here, you're going to go ahead and put back, as well as this here, and we're going to pull back this headliner, and then you guys can see kind of the spacing that we have to run the wiring all the way through the very front. So I am going to go ahead and put this together to show you guys what it's going to look like. The next thing that I'm doing here is I'm going to run the wire from the back hatch all the way to the front, and here you guys can see that I have a long zip tie that I'm going to tie the wire to the end. And let's get over here. Here is the other end to the zip tie. So we're going to go ahead and essentially pull it through. Make sure when you are running it from here over to the front pillar here, you want to go on the other side of the airbag. You do not want to be on this side when the airbag deploys. So make sure that you guys do that. So I have successfully routed the wire that goes from the very back here on over through here. Now what I did was, here is the handle that you're going to grab onto the very passenger's rear. And what I did was when I ran the cable, I made sure to stay on this side because the airbag is actually on this side. So all I did was I ran the wire through here and kind of following it through here. This is going to be the front, and the same thing, I just ran the wire over through here, right down into this A pillar here. That's going to be coming down here, and this mess that you guys see is all the wiring that I've done. Here's the battery pack, and what I did was I went ahead and ran the pack over to the fuse box right there. And you're going to see a couple of wires that essentially they're hooked up to my dash cam right over here. It's going to be routed through the headline here and essentially down. So what I'm going to go ahead and do at this point is I'm going to put things together a little neatly, and I'll show you guys what I am going to do as the next step. For the final part of the rear dash cam setup, you guys will notice there is quite a bit of extra wire. What I did was I bunched it together, zip tied, and it's just going to essentially go right under here on the headliner where it's nice and secure. You also want to make sure there is a little, right here, there was a little plug that came out. You want to make sure that to put that back in. And so from here, I will go ahead and connect this item back to the third brake light. I'll put this plastic trim back on, and then I will align my dash cam onto the mirror to make sure that it's nice and centered. So let's go ahead and put that together, and we'll wrap it up by putting the weather stripping on. Here is the final outcome, guys, of the rear camera. And most importantly, seamless integration into the rubber housing. This step here, what I did was I went and used one of these voltage testers here, and I just selected number 34 to connect the fuses to as my power. Now you can choose any one that you want. The criteria is it has to be an accessory unit where when the car turns off, it also stops power to the battery. And then when you turn the car on, it applies power to the battery so that you can go ahead and charge while you're driving. So I chose number 34, and also make sure that it is at a minimum 15 amps. Otherwise, it's going to blow and you won't be able to charge your battery. So again, 15 amps. And let's go ahead and just kind of turn this on here, guys. I made sure that the battery is being discharged, and you can see right now how it says discharging battery because the car is off, which is perfect. And then when the car is on, it's going to say charging battery. So I am good at this point. We're going to go ahead and kind of button all this up, route all the wiring underneath nice and neatly, and I'll show you guys kind of the next thing that I'll do. So the next part of putting everything together is I went ahead and neatly zip tied the wires together down here, and I actually ran everything underneath the carpeting. There's quite a bit of cushioning underneath here, and it's surprisingly how much you can fit underneath the carpet. Now here is underneath the seat. As you guys can tell, I removed the seat to make things a whole lot easier. And if you open this up here, I have all of my extra wiring right in here, and I'm going to go ahead and just zip tie it to this wire so that it doesn't flop everywhere. But Again, surprisingly amount of space down there where you can go ahead and put your extra wiring. So what I did here is I went ahead and zip tie things together. My battery pack is just going to sit right there like such. And then this is going to be for the seat. So the last thing that I'll do with the battery pack is I'm going to put tape. I'll double side the tape, lay the battery down here so it doesn't fly around. Here is the final outcome of the dash cam install. Nice and clean, just 2 wires directly into the headliner. And that, fellow automotive fanatics, is another DIY successfully done on the Mini Cooper in the books. Overall, this project wasn't terribly challenging. If you are afraid to work around the airbag, you're also pulling apart your weather stripping. Again, if you are afraid to work with that or uncomfortable, I highly recommend that you guys have a professional do it, because you will have to do that stuff to essentially really do things right for this specific project. I do think that you guys can successfully install this project. If you are doing a 1 channel, which is going to be the very front, it's pretty much a no-brainer. Very easy to do. The Mini Cooper is essentially a pretty easy vehicle to work on in that aspect for the dash cam. Now, if you are doing a dual channel with the rear, you can definitely do it. It's really your choice as to whether you want to run it on underneath the weather stripping and the floorboard, or go above like what I did and deal with the airbags. But I showed you guys how to successfully route it around the airbag and not have to worry about it impacting any type of safety issues. As usual, my friends, thank you so much for watching another DIY and supporting my channel. This is going to be Peter, your automotive fanatic, signing off until the next time, my friends.